you know, when after the game, the reports started to surface that Mr. Tepper was not very happy and he stormed out, you know, saying some things. And I figured, I was like, yeah, they're getting ready to fire Frank. I could feel it because what happens in this situation, I know, regardless of what people say in terms of reports, I'll stand on this till I die. Frank Reich did not want Bryce Young at the quarterback position. Agreed. He accepted it because it's his boss that selected, okay, and Mr. Tepper, he was the one that wanted Bryce Young. They looked at it and said he's a good player, but that's not what we want to build, but I'm already hired. I wasn't hired after the draft. I was hired before the draft, but I didn't really get the full say. And when you look at a situation like this at 1-10, you would honestly think the general manager, the owner, people in charge at the top know that this is a building team, if that's what you believe. But they believe that Bryce Young was getting ready to do Alabama magic in year one. And since it hadn't happened, you're mad, opposed to sitting back and saying, well, we're 1-10. We got to put some pieces around him. He's messing around with Adam Thielen, who's a dinosaur at the position right now. We got a long ways to go. Let's just see what happens over the next year or two. No, because I can, without knowing, just based on the firing, Skip, right now they're 1-10. He's saying, what you doing? And Frank probably like, well, I'm doing what you gave me. I can mix up, but it ain't turning out the way it needs to be. Yep. Well, you need to fix it. You know what? Never mind. I could do something different. Yep. And that's when you get fired. Because now, all of a sudden, it didn't work out the way the owner wanted it to work out. So the owner needs somebody to blame, Michael. He has to have somebody to blame, Skip. So guess who you blame? You blame Frank Reich. I ain't never seen an owner fly around. I've seen Jerry, who's a general manager, who's involved, fly to workouts, private workouts. But I ain't never seen a standard owner in the National Football League go to every single quarterback's private workout to evaluate them. I ain't never seen that. I knew right then and there Frank was in a bad situation.
You know, I think Frank's a very good coach.
Yes.
And when I heard this, I said, what? Why would you do that? I didn't know the depth of what he and we talked about it before, with the Bryce Young and him not wanting Bryce Young. I would imagine, if you're telling me that wasn't his top choice, then his top choice had to be C.J. Stroud. And Frank, as a coach, may have said, well, I can fit C.J. Stroud in any offense. I'm going to have to build something and feel something and find something for Bryce Young. And the success of C.J. Stroud is probably strained and put a stress upon that whole relationship if what we're saying has really transpired, where one guy wanted one guy and that guy somewhere else now having success and Bryce Young is not having quite the success. You know what I mean? So I can see where that is a strain. But I think it's a great opportunity for people. There are two things. Like an owner, I remember Jerry buying the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry had thoughts about how he was going to grow the Cowboys much bigger than it was. And Jerry said to me, Michael, the Dallas Cowboys should be on everybody's lips the first thing they do in the morning. I was like, this dude's tripping. He's crazy. He's really crazy. But he's taken that $140 million investment and turned it into $10 billion. And that's what crazy people do. They believe in something so much and so much that they start making everybody believe in it. And you do hear him a lot. And he is making that money. So I believe that owners do have a direction and they want to go. But they have to leave things that go on the football field on the football field. When you hire Frank Reich, you should have given him every opportunity to bring in his guys to fit with what he was trying to do so he can be most successful. I'm shocked that you're firing him because I think he's a great coach. I'm sure he'll find a job somewhere else. But this here, now people are going to start saying, oh, how good is that job in Carolina when they're seeing this kind of things? Because Frank is respected around the NFL now. Frank's a respected coach all around the NFL. So when you're looking at coaches and you want a hot coach, a coach is going to come in now and put some things in his contract because he's going to know that you are doing things like this and that the owners are going to trying to make the calls and they're going to ask for more power so they can assure their success without the meddling of owners.
Skip, this is the fourth. If I'm correct in my mind, this is the fourth now. Well, if you want to count interim coaches, this is the fifth coach since Mr. Tepper has taken over the team, and he hasn't had the team a decade.
Yeah.
Think about that. Okay, Ron Rivera was let go, which, you know, was at the end. Then all of a sudden he paid all that money to Matt Rule.
A coach from Baylor.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Ron Rivera too long. Ron Rivera been around a while.
No,
Matt
I
Rule
said,
coming
no,
in from college. Frank Reich is a respected
No, I get that though, Michael. But all I'm saying is the wild decision making.
I know what you're saying.
That Tepper,
I got you.
You know, of course, it ran its course with Rivera. Then you bring in Matt Rule from Baylor, coach. You paid him record-breaking money, made him the highest dude in the league. That didn't go well. You got rid of that. You did give Steve Wilkes a real opportunity.
They played really hard for him.
Played hard for Steve Wilkes. You didn't give him a real opportunity.
Give him fair.
Now you Frank Reich. Now you're on to another interim coach.
Yeah.
Like, that's all I'm saying. You got too much money, Michael. You just got too much money. You just, I'm the boss, so I'm going to do what I want to do.
Just for the record, Keyshawn, there were several reports that the Texans also preferred Bryce Young over C.J. Stroud, just for the record. And I'm not sure which way Frank Reich wanted to go. It might have been Will Levis that he liked, and Will's starting to do some decent things for tennis. I'm not a big fan of his, but again, it could have been that way. So here's
one thing, Skip, because I remember draft day. I wasn't doing it. I'm usually doing that draft, so I remember it directly. And I remember D'Amico Ryan talking about C.J. Stroud and saying, "I told you I was coming to get you. I told you so." So that kind of makes me say, "Oh, well, maybe it was him and pulling out the quarterback, and maybe the organization really." But go ahead. I just want to say that.
All right. So what I know of Frank Reich is he's a tough guy.
Yeah.
And he's not going to play games. He's not going to play politics. He's not going to say and do the right thing with the owner. He's going to tell the owner exactly what he believes. And he did not believe, we're pretty sure, in Bryce Young. Well, it's unfair to the kid because the kid knows that. It's going to get to the kid, and he's going to know that the guy who's coaching him and calling his plays didn't want him. That's just wrong. With all these young quarterbacks, it's right place, right time, wrong place, wrong time. And that position, more than any in sports, requires confidence from above. What happened with your Cowboys? Troy goes #1, and then Jimmy turns right around in what used to be the
supplemental draft.
And he picked Steve Walsh, with whom he won a championship at the U, obviously, first in the supplemental draft. And so you got two #1 picks vying in camp, and they kind of went back and forth. And Troy didn't like it, so it goes back and forth until Jimmy brought in Norv Turner. Am I right? And it changed Troy's life because Norv believed body and soul in Troy Aikman, and they clicked, and they shared a lot of musical tastes. They both like country music, and it just took off. And Jimmy and Troy got back on the same page and
got into this love for fish together.
They got into fish tanks together.
Fish tanks together.
I got it. But my point is, Bryce
I was saying buy some fish tanks.
I still believe in Bryce Young. I don't believe in his situation. He's with a little bit of a crazy owner right now, knee-jerk owner who's not sure what to believe. I don't know who he's listening to. Keyshawn, maybe you should go there and you could be his quasi-GM or
hey, if he was smart enough,
advisor.
If he was smart, he'd certainly just reach out.
Yeah.
But I need some help here to try to figure this thing out, though, Skip, because, look, the fact that I like Bryce Young as a player. I like him as a person. What I don't like is the non-ideal size for me.
Yeah.
That's all. If you can put him on apple cart boxes and he can play on that, somehow I would think, oh, he's going to be a great player. He makes some throws and does some things, Michael, that make you go, okay. But then at the same time, I watch him get sacked by somebody with their pinky, pulling him down. It's just like, that doesn't do it for me. And then I can look at a dude like Jalen Hurts, who's thick and stout, who does some powerful things. That's the type of quarterback that I like and I'm looking for. Or Lamar Jackson,
said going in that Bryce would have the worst weapons in the league. And I think he does. Because Adam Thielen he's a dinosaur.
And that's one thing I think I just feel like we need to clean up here, because as we talk about this and talk about who someone won and who someone did not want, we understand that this happens around the league all the time.
Every position.
Every position so you may see somebody and say, hey, I just may have thought that he was good. I may have thought that he was better. but you can still coach and work with this guy.
Absolutely.
So Frank, I'm not saying Frank brought that into the situation. They make decisions in the draft room.
Yep.
You get a guy. Sometimes you don't get a guy. You know what I mean? It doesn't affect your ability to coach him. So I'm not saying Frank's ability to coach Bryce Young was affected at all. You know what I mean? I'm just saying when you hire a guy and you hire a guy that knows for your offense, you should give him all the input on your offense.
Well,
I think that's
Mike
most
McCarthy
important.
had an opportunity to draft Aaron Rodgers when he was with the San Francisco 49ers. He didn't.
He
passed
they
on
went
it.
Alex Smith.
Okay, the same thing with John Gruden. John Gruden worked him out. It took Cadillac Williams instead. So it happens because you prefer something different. But when you get that particular guy, you've got to try to work with him. And I'm sure Frank and Coach Caldwell was trying to do the best they can from a protection standpoint and putting him in positions to be successful. It just didn't work out. And much like you said, Skip, knee-jerk reaction from an owner does not help the situation at all. It really just doesn't. You can't run around getting mad because you were going to be 1-10. Hell, you probably still would have been 1-10 with C.J. Stroud. It's just where your team is at and what it is. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, and by the way, quick point of order, Aaron didn't go until the 24th overall pick, so a whole bunch of teams said no. Maybe they didn't need a quarterback.
But San Fran was his home team, and it was his dream of dreams to play for his home team.
And I just mentioned that just because I just mentioned that because they prefer one thing, and then Mr. McCarthy, Mike McCarthy had to go coach.
Well, and I think it was great for both sides, though, because we talked about, the coaches do these things, but what Skip was talking about also is, let's be real now, these players have emotions too, and they hear these things later, and they carry it on, you know what I mean? Because Aaron Rodgers carried it for a while.
He got to sit for 3 years behind Brett Favre, and Mel Kiper had a great piece on ESPN about how they completely rebuilt his Jeff Tedford delivery from Cal. They just broke him down and started him over, and MVPs resulted from that. So now you've thrown these kids into the fire, and C.J. Stroud is saying, watch this, and Bryce is in a rough spot trying to learn on the fly. But as we know, Peyton Manning led the league in interceptions as a rookie starter, right? So it's hard, man. It just...
It is. It is. But let's be real here. It looks like, let's just be real, and I know they're young, and we want to be careful because Bryce Young's just a rookie. But it looks like, wow, how could you have picked him over him?
Sure, right
Let's
now.
just be real. Right now, when you see how C.J. Stroud, like yesterday, man, I was talking, dude, we had three great games. They were hyped, and they all matched the hype. I mean, that Michigan-Ohio State game was first, and then that Houston-Jacksonville game was next. It was like, I'm watching, it all matched the hype. And then, of course, that Philly game. And watching CJ, and when you watch Bryce, you say, oh, no, how did you pick that over there? If you watch Peyton Manning and you watch, you watch Peyton Manning, Ryan Leaf, you say, oh, how was this even? You see what I mean? So that's what they're dealing with. And I can only imagine Frank Reich and Mr. Tepper looking at each other. Frank saying, don't say a word to me. You know what I'm saying? And he was like, I can say whatever I want to say. I'm the billionaire here. That must have been a situation.
Even though, last quick point of order, when CJ and Bryce went head-to-head this year, go back and look at the tape. So tell me what you see. Bryce slightly outplayed and put up slightly better numbers than CJ did, and Bryce directed them, drove them to the winning score, and they won the game. So he did one good thing. You got to give him that. One good thing in a head-to-head with CJ, he beat him. Okay? So that's the one, but they're 1-10.
And I like that, too, now. I like that he rose up for that one.
He did.
Like, I may not be playing the way I want to play, but I'm going to show y'all I'm going to beat the guy that's drafted right behind me. So it says something. He has something in him. Frank Reich will get another job. I hope they bring in the right person for this young dude right here.
It's just wild to me that he's, after 11 games, he's sent packing. And when
you got the first pick in the draft, I know you didn't expect to have that kind of season.
No way. I don't know any team that has gone on with the first pick in the draft, and maybe you do, Skip, in the history of the league, that has gone on with the first pick in the draft despite the position, that all of a sudden They in the playoffs and they're the number one team. No, it doesn't work.
Happening.
You were number one for a reason.
Right.
Because you're sorry.
Right.
That's why. Because you're a bad football team.
Yep.
And it takes time.
And that's why you got a new head coach. It's because you're a bad football team.
Okay.
That's the reason.
Okay, you two. Jim Caldwell, as a head coach in this league, has been very, very good. Should he get a look here? Should he get a shot here?
He should have had a look several years now, but I don't know if Jim wants to be a head coach right now. I don't know that. He coached me in Tampa, and I know him pretty well. I don't know if he wants to take that on with his age, and he's had some health complications in the past. I don't know if he wants to do that or be the senior assistant advisor to teach and bring that along. Because as a head coach, as you know, Michael, there's a lot of responsibility. You know, there's a ton of responsibility.
And I'm going to say that Mr. Tapper goes into and go find him a young Mike McDaniels, somebody that can build an offense around Bryce Young and lift up his best qualities and try to hide those other qualities that doesn't make him the greatest of football players. Yeah. That's what Mike McDaniels has done for the Miami Dolphins, and you need to go find you one of those offensive-minded geniuses.
I just hope Mr. Tepper can go find a head coach.
And stay out of the way.
Who believes in Bryce Young. Somebody has to come in and says, you know what? He can play. I believe in him. Watch this.
Right. That he has a skill set that I can build something around. I mean, you got to have someone. They don't know enough of Bryce Young to know that I can build with. You got to see. Somebody has to come and sit down and say, listen, I've seen a talent. I've seen this skill set. I can build this offense around that skill set. Now, let me go meet the man and see what kind of temperament the man is so I can make sure that I put the right things in the right place to find out what kind of players I got to put around. Because if he's not an alpha dog, then I got to find an alpha dog running back or an alpha dog wide receiver. You see what I mean?
The Miami Dolphins did the right thing.
And when they got a Tyreek Hill, because
they went
the quarterback is quiet, but Tyreek's an alpha dog that's going to raise them up.
They also hired a guy that they knew could come in and be innovative in the things that he's capable of doing and build a certain style of offense that Tua could thrive in. And look, Tua's not much bigger. He's a little thicker than Bryce Young, but he's not much taller at all than Bryce Young. So if you can find somebody that says Bryce Young has a certain skill set, allow me to put him in the positions to be successful and not try and, make him become something he's not, then you could potentially have some success. But it's up to the owner to find the right guy. Don't just be knee-jerk reacting, man, because that's all I've seen from Mr. Tepper since he's taken over and bought the Carolina Panthers. Everything knee-jerk reaction, opposed to, you would think, being part of the Rooney Foundation and being there in Pittsburgh as a minority owner, that he would have learned how the Rooneys handle their situation and took that and ran with it to Carolina and said, I'm going to follow that same recipe for success.
He has a friend out there. Somebody loves him, and they're going to clip this part here that we are talking about, and they're going to send it to him and say, hey, this should help you build your team. That's what they're going to do. Undisputed is helping you build your team.
Okay. But you guys know when you've won and won and won in business, it's hard not to immediately win in this league, and it is hard to win in this league.
And you start treating football like your business is different.
No, it's totally different.
You can't do that.
All these owners, for the most part, done won in business. And all the successful owners stay out the damn way.
All billionaires.
They stay out the way. They stay out the way. Jerry's the only one that really gets involved, but he played the game.
Fast. That's the motto of all these big-time CEOs. They'll hire slow and fire fast. If they got a problem, they'll get rid of it quickly. That doesn't work. You can't do that here because it's going to take a time to build a team, so they got to understand that.
Got it. Thanks for watching, Undisputed fans. Do you want more highlights from the show? Make sure to click that subscribe button for all the exclusive content from Undisputed.